Hi guys, welcome to session 7 of Play into Kindergarten Readiness. I am so excited. Session 7 is the first time we can finally see how all of this work you've been doing, all these foundational skills you've been playing with, today is the day that we get to see how everything starts to build on that. So I know phonological awareness can seem kind of drab, boring, not so fun necessarily to play with, but I keep saying how important it is, and today you're gonna see why. I hope you're excited. I'm so excited, clearly. Okay, so we've done all of the strands of phonological awareness. You've been playing with them. Your little one has an understanding for all these auditory skills, the sounds that they're hearing. Today we get to put letters to that. So we start to learn letters of the alphabet. So generally when children are learning when children are starting preschool, they often learn their letters. So we're going to start that now. And now you're going to see why we did all that we did and how naturally learning letters is going to unfold for our little ones. All right. So when we start teaching our little ones their letters, it's always a fabulous idea to start with their name. Those letters hold meaning to them. Already they're important. They own those letters. So it's a perfect place to start. So let's start there. Before we do, so introducing letters, capitals, lowercase, how do you go about it? What I'm going to suggest, first of all, I generally say lowercase because when children are reading print in books and things, it's typically lowercase. Words, when we make words, we make them with lowercase letters. They often will have a capital first letter, the rest are lowercase. So it just makes more sense. Out in the real world, they're going to see print that's lowercase a lot more often than capitals. That being said, they need to learn both. So what I have been doing in the kindergarten classroom and what I've been doing home with my little ones is just focusing on one letter at a time and doing everything. Like we do the lowercase, we call it the baby letter, and then the big papa letter, and also its sound. So we're putting all those pieces together at once. And why not, right? Like, anyways. And when we get into session 8, which I'm also excited about how to introduce the rest of the letters, you'll kind of get a feel for what I mean. Okay, so my little guy, his name is Ben, my littlest. And so if I was going to be teaching him his name letters, I would introduce it the first way by doing this, that his name is Ben. And now I would say, let's figure out what sounds are in your name. We know what sounds are in your name. Let's hear them. Ba, I'm segmenting his name for him. He can then say, oh, the first sound is ba, because he knows sound identification, right? So he can say the first sound is ba. Okay, now we do sound deletion. What's left? Okay, so he in his mind is going to take the ba off and he's left with N. N is left. Now, if we had just gone right into learning letters, he's going to think, oh, N, that's the letter N. But because we did the foundation of phonological awareness, he doesn't hear N and think the letter N. He doesn't think the name. He hears N and he hears because he knows how to stretch out those sounds, how to segment those sounds. So he knows that they're blended together right now and he needs to stretch them out. So he is not going to say his name is ba, N. He's going to say his name is ba, Those are 3 separate sounds. Really cool, right? So you can see all this work we've done. It's laid the groundwork for future reading and writing. So we're going to introduce those letters. He doesn't know those letters' names yet, but a lot of the letter names sound a heck of a lot like their sounds. So we'll say, okay, so the first letter in your name is a ba. This is what a ba looks like. It's a line down and 2 big bumps, and it's called a B. And there's a capital B, a big papa B with 2 bumps, and there's a little b with just 1 bump. Also a great way when you're introducing them together to prevent reversals because the capital B and the lowercase b both face the same direction. I'm confused with the camera if I'm showing you the correct way or not, so bear with me. But that idea, right, that they both go the same way. So if they learn them at the same time, hopefully it will help with reversals down the line. They won't have as many. Okay, I'm so excited that I keep going off on little tangents, but I want you to know how important everything we just did, it all comes into play when we're reading and writing. Okay, so we've done the ba. Now we're going to delete that sound, and what's left? N, N. Okay, let's stretch that out. What two sounds do we hear? Eh, eh, eh. That's right, and eh, that's the middle sound. And the eh is the letter E. And the capital E looks like this, and the little e looks like that. And then we do the same thing for the N, and the sound. The sound is an N, and this is what it looks like. This is the capital, this is lowercase. So now we've gotten through his little name, and we can start playing with those letters. So now that he knows them and we've deciphered them together and he understands that that's how his name is made up, now we can play with them and really get to know those letters. So I've shared with you in the course book a bunch of different name activities to play with your little one. The trick with introducing letters is to go nice and slow. Really nice and slow. Don't rush it, because then little ones will start to get overwhelmed. It's so much more important that they know, even if they're starting kindergarten and they know 12 letters, if they really know them, that's so much more powerful than just being able to name the names of all of the letters of the alphabet, right? So just go nice and slow, and you can continue this as your little one starts school. That's totally fine to go along with however the teacher decides to teach the letters. You can continue this method at home. Before bed, you do one new letter, whatever the case might be. Okay, so that's how we start introducing letters. Does it make sense? Like, you can kind of see how all these skills we've been working on, they all come into play as we're stretching words out, as we're reading words. Next week, I'm going to talk to you about introducing the rest of the letters, and you'll see how, like, rhyming and being able to find the stem and word, the word stems, is so important as we introduce the letters, and your little one will start blending sounds together and actually start reading right when they're learning their letters. It's really cool. Just before we wrap up to the learning the name piece, I wanted to talk to you about the stages of learning a name. So the first stage is to simply recognize their name. So they see B-E-N and they say, oh, that's my name, that's Ben. And they're able to pick it out from the crowd. So there might be, 4 different names on the carpet or 5 different names sitting on the carpet. And they can say, oh, that's Ben, that's my name. They can decipher it from other words and other names. The next stage is matching. They can find a B and put it on top of their B. They can find an E, put on top of their E. Find an N, put on top of their N. And they can find, again, deciphering from all the letters in the alphabet, they can pull out their B, their E, and their N. Next step is to create their name by putting it in the correct order, but not with a guide. So they've been putting B-E-N on top of their name, B-E-N. Now we take that guide away and we get them to make it by themselves by placing a B, an E, and an N. And finally, it's the skill of writing it themselves, B-E-N. So there's a lot of pieces to learning a name. It's not just as simple as writing a name. We need to do it developmentally in order to give them the best shot. And I shared with you in the course book some activities. So there's different name puzzles that I like to play with. My little Ben loves sports, so we made up a game called Name Hockey. And it's just, again, a fun way to play with those letters. So I was the announcer, and we had put the letters of the alphabet on paper plates. And paper plates actually glide really well on carpet. So he was shooting the letters in, and we would be playing with the idea of the sounds and the names as he's playing that game. So I share that with you in the course book. If you're interested in trying that game with your little one, you can read about it. Okay, so that's learning a name. Pretty cool, right? Like, you can see the foundation starts to build. And this is just the very first building block on that initial foundation. Now we're putting the very first building block on it. So you can see how important it is that they have those foundational skills, because we are just going to keep building and building and building. We just go up from here. We go from learning letters to learning to read. It just goes on and on and on. So this is the foundation that they're going to build everything else on. So it's so important they have these phonological awareness skills set in stone, and they have the super strong understanding of the letters, how they work, what they look like, what they sound like. And we work more on that next week about introducing the rest of them. But you can see those pieces together, that gives them the foundation for all future reading and writing, which is a huge component of school. And life in general, really, like in our world, reading and writing is super important. Okay, now math. Math not as exciting today because we're still working on those foundational skills, but measuring, which is actually, it is fun to do with little ones, is measuring. So when we're introducing measuring with our little ones, it's always fun to use a measuring tape, but that's almost too one-dimensional for little ones because it's just a length, right? They can't really understand the concept that we're measuring with standard units, because it's just one long line. A tape measure or any sort of measuring tape is just one strong line. So it's a great way to start measuring by using non-standard units of measurement. So for example, measuring something with blocks. So you have a bag of blocks that are all exactly the same size, of course, and you can measure how long a piece of paper is. So you get a piece of paper and you put your blocks here and you go 1, 2, and you line your blocks up across the bottom and you see, oh, this piece of paper is 8 blocks long. Wow, that's really neat. How else could we measure this piece of paper? Oh, we could measure it with popsicle sticks. Okay, 1, 2, oh my goodness, it's only 2 popsicle sticks long, but it's 8 blocks long. And start comparing and contrasting things. And they start to understand that measuring things, we have to use the same unit because otherwise it won't make sense. So using blocks, something might be 8 blocks and only 2 popsicle sticks, but it's still the same size, right? Really powerful stuff. Okay. And why it's important, like I said, something can be 5 teddy bears tall, but 20 blocks tall and still actually be the same height. So they're starting to understand that the unit in which they measure is really important. And also it gives them a means to finally compare things. So they can compare things and say, the chair is taller than the stool. I know it's taller because the chair is 32 blocks and the stool is 28 blocks. So they can have some concrete meaning behind what they're observing and what they're seeing and comparing. Some fun activities and ways to practice this around the house is by, you can do how tall am I? So you can trace your little one on a piece of paper on the ground or outside in the dirt or the snow, or you can even just put a painter's tape line from your child, if your child laying on the ground, from their toe up to the tip of their head. So they just have one straight line and you can say, how tall are you? And then they can use blocks and say, oh, I'm 42 blocks. They can use spoons and I don't know, 14 spoons maybe a child would be. Maybe that's too tall. 11 spoons, I don't know. And they can use different things to measure how tall they are. They can measure you. And then they can start adding in those pieces of, oh, mommy is 7 spoons taller than I am. Those things, right? So incorporating all of these foundational skills all into one to make it meaningful for them gives them a base for when they're actually going to need to use the things that they're learning. They can start comparing and contrasting things in that way. So measuring your little one is always lots of fun. They always love that. You can also measure with your little one. So they can lay down and you can mark where their head is, and then they stand up and they go and they put their toe where their head was and lay down again. And you can measure how long a room is. And you can say, wow, the room is 4 bends long. Great, things like that. We created a measuring mirror as well, which has been lots of fun for my little guys. So we had one of those long dresser mirrors that we weren't really using. And so I just measured up one side of them, and I just measured a standard unit. I think I did use a measuring tape, but I just in order to get the sizing the same between, you know what I mean, between my little lines on the mirror, I wanted the sizing to be the same. And then I just wrote numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up. And I did that in permanent marker on the side of the mirror. So then my little ones, we put that up in the playroom and they could pull up their dump truck and point and measure, oh, our dump truck is 5 marks tall. Or, oh, my teddy bear. They would stand their teddy bear up and say, oh, my teddy bear is 10 tall. And they would measure themselves too and keep track. Oh, I'm 12 tall right now. I wonder how tall I'll be next tomorrow, because they do it all the time. Right, little things like that. So that's a great way to incorporate measuring into your typical playful day. Yeah, and I already talked to you about measuring with blocks. So my little guys would get a basket and carry their blocks around and they would measure. And sometimes I would give them challenges, like when I was getting dinner ready. That's often a tricky time where the little ones are tuckered out and they're tired and they want your attention. But you can't give them your full attention because you've got to make them their food that they're going to be getting cranky without. So it's, you know, the witching hours. So I would give them a basket full of blocks, and then I give them a challenge and say, okay, can you find something that's 5 blocks tall? And then they'd go off and try to find something that's 5 blocks tall, right? Just little things like that. So that's measuring. The third thing, the experience we're going to talk about today is sensory activities. So sensory activities are important because it's part of the whole body learning, involving their whole body. It's also a fabulous way to expose them to new languages, like something can feel clumpy or it can feel brittle, right? All these new words that they can be exposed to through sensory play. So sensory play, often when people think about it, they think of like messy play, like getting their hands goopy and messy. Doesn't necessarily need to be messy play. It can be like a rice bin, just different textures and different experiences that they would feel with their fingers. Yeah, so it's just exploring your all of your 5 senses, but the one we're focusing on today is with the hands. I'm focusing on touch. So the activities can be super simple. Like when you're outside, sensory activities happen all the time. Let them take their mitts off for a quick minute and feel how cold that icy snow is, or how hard and so cold the icicle is, and how it's wet too, and how when they squeeze it, it melts a little bit and leaves their hands wet. Or in the garden in the summertime, the spring and the summer, the mud and the dirt and how they feel different, how dirt can feel dry, and when you add water to it, then it can feel muddy and goopy. So it happens quite naturally outside. Leaves can be in the fall. Leaves are crunchy and dry, and in the spring they're almost bendable, and they're much more fresh. You can use Play-Doh. I share on my blog the best recipe you're ever going to find for Play-Doh. So simple. No cooking, and it lasts forever. You make it and it lasts for 6 months. Longer, really. I just throw mine out after 6 months because I figure little hands have been in there a lot and we should probably make a fresh batch. But it lasts forever, and you just add boiling water to it. So no cooking either. So Play-Doh is a fabulous and easy sensory experience for little ones to have. I talked about using a rice bin, even water play. So when your little ones are in the bath, they're having that sensory experience with water play. You can also do it in the kitchen sink with some bubbles as they're washing dishes and things like that. All of that is sensory play. And the social skill, today I wanted to share with you, my camera cut me off, but I don't want to do that video all again, so I'm going to just continue on as if it hadn't. Sorry, you have to click a second link. But I'm just about finished anyways, but I didn't want to finish mid-sentence. So having a play date. So just one-offs where you're inviting someone over to play. And as you're having those play dates, consider the social skills you want your little one to get from them. So sharing or taking turns, engaging in play, trying to see what that child might want to play. And do you want to play that, or no, you don't really want to? And it's okay to play separate too, right? Like all those skills that you'd want your little one to have in kindergarten. Okay. That was all I wanted to say. So sorry, I have to click the second link. I decided I'm not going to go through and edit my videos because I wanted them just to be very natural, just a conversation that you would have as if I was your child's kindergarten teacher. It's just a conversation that we would be having. So that's why I'm sticking to that, and you're going to have to click the second link. Next week is our last week, session 8, and we're going to tie everything all up into a nice, neat little bow as we learn how to teach our little ones the rest of the letters. You're going to see it all unfold, beautiful. And we're going to be doing patterning in math, which will wrap up all the foundational skills our little ones will need for math. I don't remember what the experience is. I'm going to have to check it out and let you know. It might be field trips. And then, anyways, we'll see you next week, and we'll wrap everything up. Okay, bye.